So I just wanted to share with you some things I've been doing on the UI in regards to accessibility, some of the feedback that we've had from our users and also internally from you guys as well. The feedback has been more around the form elements being too light and some of the hierarchy of content hasn't been quite clear on some of the pages. So I've just really been focusing on those two things, like the contrast, making sure things aren't kind of overriding the grey that Material UI actually uses as their default, and making sure that the content on the page stands out more than other things. So you can see your signpost and know where you are on the page clearly. So one of the other things I've been looking at is also making sure that when it's viewed in grayscale, that those things, the contrast and the hierarchy, actually stands out. So I just wanted to go through first and show you what it would look like if you were actually visually impaired, because it's, I don't know if you've used this Chrome lens tool, but mainly when we get down to the colorblind impairment, you can see that our colors actually work really well. The blue still stands out strongly. Our primary action color is nice and bold. And our links are still contrasting for them. As I just flick through. When we get down to the RGB weak and the RGB blind, which is just pure grayscale, that we were having some issues with our contrast and hierarchy. So what I've actually done is darkened a lot of our line colors, especially on our forms. So now you can see in active state, the form still stands out quite strongly, but in non-active state, we can actually see that line now. It's quite strong. And also the note text has been made a lot darker than what it was. And I've made the label, can't highlight it, the label of the form element, our medium weight font as well. So it's a bit darker, heavier, sorry. And one other thing I've done is put an outline around our Markdown editor and also our code editor as well, because feedback was that it was just looking a little bit lost on the screen. It was too light and there wasn't enough definition around it. And I think this layout actually helps these links up here to actually look like they're part of the Markdown editor as well. Some of the other options that I looked at was having like a light colored background behind it, but then it started to look like our removable list element. So I wanted to make it look quite different. And in this way, it still looks like our form elements on the page. What else have I done? So the other thing I looked at is the disabled state of our button. So this is, I just flick back to color. Yep. So this save button is in disabled state, so no changes have been made. Previously, the default for Material UI was quite a light grey with a slightly darker grey text on it, and the contrast just wasn't there. So we flipped it around to have the darker grey background with the white text for greater contrast. And if I just make a change, does that change? That's actually probably, that's one thing I haven't tested, whoops. Okay, we need to address that. But you can see that, I move away. For normal users, the contrast is still there, is what I'm trying to show you. But we'll need to obviously work on the contrast a little bit more for the accessibility of that button as well. What else has been done? I've just addressed some things in the side menu. So if I go back to this, if we hover over the side menu, you can't actually tell that that color is changing when it's in grayscale. So I've added a background hover state to it, and also for the selected state, it's now bolded, because that wasn't really strong at all. You couldn't really tell what was selected on there. And another thing is making the first column of the table in the heavier weight font as well. So that's clear that that's the title for that row, before just being in the lighter weight. And because our light blue, or primary blue that we use, tends to grey in grayscale, having it as a heavier weight definitely benefits here. It's also helped in areas like on the environments page, where this text has been made bigger, so you get that definite hierarchy of the text, and even the nesting helps with that. One thing that one of our users did comment on was on the process page here, that the step names kind of just didn't stand out enough, and this is kind of where it all started, bolding some of our headings. So now they stand out a little bit more. So that. The other thing that I've been looking at is making this intro text a little bit smaller. Previously we had it like 16 pixels, and it was our primary text color, and it was standing out a lot, and really a user would probably only read that once or twice, and all the information that they're actually concerned about is under here. So I've dropped it back so it doesn't stand out as much. You'll notice that on all those pages that have that text. I think that's it. So it's really just the start of reviewing the UI for accessibility. But if anybody has time, it would be really great if you could jump onto this instance, formaccessibility.octopushq.com, and just have a look through the UI, and just let me know if it feels better on your screen or not, because it was a little bit hard for me to judge, because I'm on a Mac screen, and sometimes on a PC screen it looks a little bit different, and you might be on a different resolution and things might be happening. So yeah, just let me know what your thoughts are. Is there any feedback?
De-weighting that introductory text looks really nice, Jess, at least over Zoom.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing. It's really hard to know what you guys are seeing over Zoom with the contrast.
That's the worst.
Okay. So you go have a look at it. It'll probably look better.
It does look good.
Mm.
Yeah.
Just one thing, because we have kind of two competing goals here. It depends on which users you talk to. One of them was increased contrast, which is what you've done.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a bunch of people telling us that they feel like the screen is screaming at them because it's too heavy. Is that going to make it worse for them?
Were they particularly talking about the dashboard screen, or were they just talking in general?
I think these were the people that didn't provide much details initially.
I mean, de-weighting that intro text on those pages definitely feels less shouty, because I think that text being the same weight as everything else.
It's more that the headings, they're heavy now.
Yeah, right.
So these are, it feels to me that there are two competing goals to some extent. That's why.
I had a user who commented on one of the blog posts, say that everything was kind of screaming at them, and then they went and commented on the issue for the form accessibility and gave a specific example of the dashboard is what they felt was screaming at them, especially with their long release names. So I think what we've done here is reduce the font weight of the release number. because it was bold, and having that repeat so many times was kind of screaming at you. So maybe it's more looking at that hierarchy more and saying, okay, well, maybe some things don't need to be as bold as what we have them now. But as long as our titles stand out and they look like their titles, then that's, yeah. It's only the start. Maybe I need to review that a little bit more.
I think it's
Is there any...
Sorry.
Hey, Rob.
You go first.
I was going to say, is there any plans to do testing with sort of voiceover software like JAWS or something for those that are not so much colorblind, but even more towards the completely blind side of the things?
The screen readers.
Yeah.
I think we talked about it originally. It's probably a good idea that we do look into that. Yeah.
Just following up on that, I went to a couple accessibility presentations at NDC Sydney, and like the videos are available and they're fantastic. And it really points out that for people with visual impairments, where just a variety other than some of the colorblind ones, it's the order of forms and structure of forms. And you know, I'm optimistic that some of Google's material designs would have a good, I don't know, first kick at all this stuff, but potentially it's something that we would want to look at. So I can dump some links in knowledge sharing just from one of the videos. It was from an American who does consulting, and it was just absolutely brilliant. So yeah, but I think this is great, even just considering it. It's a great first step, and if we continue it, yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah, if you can pop them in knowledge sharing, that'd be good, Rob. But yeah, this is just the start of things. Other things I've noticed is our blue text links within grey text looks exactly the same when it's in grayscale. So there needs to be some sort of affordance there. People know that they're clickable. Screen readers is great. And yeah, hopefully we can continue this next year.